Wallace and Keller fans, we're back. Gary Keller, Mike Wallace. We're here. As we always say, we talk racing, a lot of racing, and a whole bunch of stuff. Gary's the stuff person. I'm the race guy.
Yes,
And,
you are.
it's going to be a lot of fun. I think, Gary, let's just talk, start off. Other than, it's nice to see everybody. Hope everybody's been enjoying yourself. But wow, what a weekend we had at North Wilkesboro. I don't know if you got to watch any of it or all of it. But for those old race fans, those race fans are on, social media saying we need to get it back like it used to be. Well, baby, you got it back like it used to be.
It sure seems like that, Mike. But you know what? One of the things I'm concerned about, this pay-per-view, which we all know that professional sports are leaning towards to create more revenue. Any kind of source that they can tap to make more revenue, they're all about it. And what's the repercussions for NASCAR? Because you know that people aren't paying. I know I don't pay. I've not paid one time for the membership. If the race isn't on Fox or NBC, I won't watch it. Do you think that's
Well, I think
happening?
what it really amounts to, Gary, I haven't paid anything either, but I've been able to be on it because, I was on TNT this past week, which is a pretty open channel on most cable provider networks. We've been on Amazon Prime for the previous 5 races. Now, I know what people say about that, right? Oh, I don't have it. Let me tell you what, a lot of people have Amazon Prime, and, it's just a feature on it. You don't have to pay anything extra for it. Amazon's a huge streaming service, and I think what it amounts to, Gary, whether we like it or not, it's the way things are going to be. And we're going to have to get into it or get out of it. The numbers. Now, how do you measure numbers? I don't know. What I do know, the manufacturer, which is NASCAR, keeps asking for X number of dollars, and they somehow figure out how to get more dollars.
Mm-hmm.
Hey, I just read a deal today, and you may know all about it. I don't know. I only read the headline. Right? ESPN has got rid of a bunch of their key employees
Saw
because they
that.
paid 30 something. I want to say billion, but I can't believe it can be that much money for the NFL rights again. So they've already started slashing because they want that revenue. But I don't know. As long as we got a way to watch it, what's the cost of entertainment? I had a friend of mine. She's actually at a movie tonight, right? Going to watch this 3-hour documentary movie. Cost $26 for the ticket to get into the theater. It costs what, $15 for popcorn and Coke? So you're at $40. You're gonna pay for entertainment, and we just gotta realize that our time and value is worth something, and, if we wanna watch a good race and we don't wanna spend the money to go to the races,
Yep, I know. Well,
yeah, then we'll just sit at home and watch it on television. We'll pay a few bucks, and so be it.
yeah. Well, we know that Major League Baseball players, NFL players, soccer players, the millions and millions of dollars that they're paying out for these players is just absolutely incredibly absurd as far as I'm concerned. In
Well,
1976, I started getting Cincinnati Reds baseball tickets, reserve baseball tickets, and the box seat that I bought, second row behind the bullpen at Cincinnati Reds, Riverfront Stadium, watching the best team, probably one of the best teams that ever assembled in Major League Baseball was the Cincinnati Reds, the Big Red Machine, as we all know. My ticket price for that ticket for the second row behind the bullpen was $2.50. Mind you, nowadays, if you go to a Cincinnati Reds game at Great American Ballpark, that same seat is going to cost you $126. Well, I don't have season tickets anymore. I had 8 season tickets back then. I would sell shares of them and maybe go to 20, 30 games myself out of the 81 home games. I don't see how people can afford that. I mean, I can afford it, but I don't do it any longer. I also had season tickets to the Cincinnati Bengals, 5th row behind the dugout. They moved from Riverfront Stadium to the new stadium that they built, and they wanted license fees, just like the Cincinnati Reds did. So, in order for you to maintain those seats, you had to pay license fees also. I haven't been to a Cincinnati Reds game or a Cincinnati Bengals game unless a friend asks me, and I'll go. Now, you and I have been plenty to NASCAR races. You more so than me over the years. I don't really have any great desire to ever go to another race. I wouldn't mind watching one on TV, but to go to a race, maybe to meet you somewhere, in DC or Daytona where I live, that makes sense to go to a race. And, if I would get pit passes or something through you, which, I'd be eager to go to that, but it's just so damned expensive. And I'm very thrifty with my money in some ways, but I know what you're saying. You got to pay if you're going to live. But I just can't see paying these. And NASCAR drivers aren't making the kind of money that they used to make, Mike. You and I both know that. You
No,
know,
Gary, that's what I was going to kind of lead into. I don't want anybody getting fooled that, the drivers or the teams and all that are making all this crazy money because I'm pretty factual that I know what I'm talking about here. Okay. I may not be dead on my numbers, but pretty close.
yes,
There's only a few guys that are making what we call money that they were equal to making 7, 8 years ago. The new generation of drivers are having to earn their money. They're having to perform. They're running more off a percentage of winnings. They're getting guarantees, but it's nothing. I mean, I'll be honest with you. The lowest paid NFL player makes more money than most NASCAR race drivers do. I know
easy.
that.
Yeah,
And the NASCAR race driver doesn't have any benefits, doesn't have a retirement program. We're independent contractors. You got to make, we're if you put it in the stick and ball realm of things, man, we're stupid as hell or have been. But you know what, Gary? We're kids. I'm a kid that grew up in St. Louis, Missouri, along with my brothers. And believe it or not, we were able to make a living driving race cars.
damn good living.
And, it opened that door for us. And we're envious. I just watched I didn't really watch it. I watched the highlights now and then of the FIFA World Cup. And you got Ronaldo and you got Messi and those guys. And Ronaldo's making 200 million a year, 200 something million a year to play soccer. And you just like, how can anybody pay him that much? Well, guess what? They do, and they're happy to have him. And it's just a group of people that can afford to do it. Professional sports, what I have learned talking to owners of the professional sports teams, it's not that they bought a franchise for the hell of it. They buy it as an investment. They look at what can they return on their money in X number of years from now. And if you look at teams, you were talking about the Cincinnati teams, how much ticket prices went up. Well, the value of their team has went up significant amount of what it was worth back in that day. I mean, we got everybody always talks about the America's team or America's football team, the Dallas Cowboys. Well, they haven't won shit in years, and they're still valued at some record $60 billion value or something like that. I was reading last
Yeah,
week.
it's
Yeah,
crazy.
so and Jerry Jones bought that thing for X number of millions, and now it's worth billions. So as long as somebody's out there creating the demand for this stuff, Gary, and we got
Yes,
just got to figure out how to ride that wave with them. We can get a little of that cash rolling our way.
right. That's right. We got to find a. Some good friend of mine told me years ago. He said the only way you're ever going to get rich is if you steal from somebody. I never agreed with him in that category, but
Now there,
with what I do for a living is emergency service. We get paid very well, and I'm proud of it. You were in the heyday. You made great money, Mike. I mean, and ladies and gentlemen, I've commented on Mike Wallace's house. If you're ever in Concord, North Carolina, swing by his house and just take a look.
oh yeah.
It it is absolutely
Hey,
beautiful.
can I help you, people? Yeah, Gary said just swing by anytime.
Yeah, you probably get somebody who will do that, believe it or not. But
There
anyway,
you go.
enough on that. I mean, it's still a great sport. I love it. I love it, but I hate it. It's a love-hate relationship. Probably a little bit of that in you as well, because you've been screwed over more than once or twice, as I have. And things aren't always fair in professional sports, but with NASCAR, it is as cutthroat gets. I hate to say that. You're on top. You're, yeah,
We can talk about all those negative things, but Gary, we got to talk about the positives. We got to talk
yeah.
about North Wilkesboro comeback last weekend. They repaved that place. It looks beautiful under the lights. My brother Rusty was the grand marshal up there. for
Sweet.
that race. Kenny was there for his Fan Fest Trackside deal. He says the crowd was outstanding. They were enthusiastic. They were hooting and hollering, and
Yeah,
it was back to old days. He says, "Hell yeah, traffic was even backed up getting into the place." So he says,
that's
when
right.
people were sitting in that traffic, I was wondering if they were still wanting to be like the old days where it's all backed up.
Yeah, yeah, I hear you.
Yeah.
Let's talk about every once in a while, every few years, you get a driver that comes into the sport and they're a rebel rouser. We saw a little bit of it with Ross Chastain. Things have calmed down for him, but we got Carson Hocevar that's come into the sport and it's been holy hell. And I like the kid. I like his style, but give me a little bit of take on what you feel about that, Mike.
Well, he's a personality. Can I say it that way? Let's start with that. Let's start with the human side first. He's a young boy, and he's a boy. He's a young man. You call him a man, but a young boy that got put in a cup car long before he was ever ready to be put in a cup car. And that's not him saying it. That's his owner saying it. Jeff Dickerson said, "We put him in one long before he deserved to be in one. But we wanted to start something early. We knew we'd get a wrath of shit from people for doing it, but hey, you know what? We went for it anyway." And they got a kid that's aggressive. They've created swagger in him. Okay. And I'm going to give you some reasons of why I believe that. We've never had a NASCAR driver show up at the Met Ball Gala in New York City dressed in a tux. Carson Hocevar went this year. He was at a deal where he met Prince William the other day and LeBron James all at the same time. And he says it's all of a sudden the security guards jump up to keep him away, and then they finally all do pictures together. He's out there. His people are putting him out there, helping the sport. And he's running fast right now. If you realize he's running fast, but what he's not scared to do, which other drivers have done in the past, and it was the past, but we got away from it for a while because NASCAR wanted to clean the image up, didn't want all this rubbing and racing. Well, Hocevar just started rubbing and racing again, and it's pissed some of the guys off. I don't like that. I don't like him doing that. Well, you know what? Big deal, because I'll tell you what, all the pictures I've seen every Sunday morning, his souvenir trailer's got the most people lined up around it buying souvenirs and T-shirts, wanting them to be signed. So he's doing something really popular.
Yeah.
And every sport needs a star. You'd be hard pressed. I really hate to say that. You're in the sport. I'm in it. We got our pros and cons on our everyday likes, dislikes, whatever. But I can be assured until just recently, if you walked up to an average fan, a casual fan, and said, "Name me a superstar NASCAR driver," they'd have a hard time naming a name. They'd think for a while and they'd throw out Kyle Larson or something like that, but one that excites them, exhilarates them. And I think right now, give him credit. I think Hocevar's got a niche. He's got a niche,
Yeah.
and he's living up to what they built him up to be.
Yeah.
Yeah,
I agree. You know, does he have the talent to back it up, Mike, in your opinion?
he won Talladega. He
That's
run fourth the other night at a half-mile racetrack. He was the most creative kid I've ever seen to do a victory celebration at Talladega. So give him credit. Yeah, he's anytime you can win a race at a NASCAR level, you have talent, right? You may not have the greatest talent, but you have talent to be there, deserve to be there. He's got a national restaurant chain in Chili's that is, promoting him. He's got, the ownership group that owns Spire Motorsports. They also own the Cadillac F1 team. They all own Andretti Global, the IndyCar team. He's in a ballpark with major funding. They're not the little old team, that Spire deal. Everybody wants to go, "Oh, it's just Spire." That's a big,
And
well-funded team. That's an additional Hendrick organization, is what that is.
you talk about creating a monster. I don't know who was behind that brainchild. You do, but whoever did it, man, they were genius caliber.
Yeah, far as you mean putting that whole program together.
Gosh, yes. I remember when they
Yeah,
started.
well, when I first,
You as well.
I mean, Jeff Dickerson, and I'm just going to compliment the man. I don't personally know him. I think I was introduced to him once on pit road, and I didn't know who he was. And I just, "Oh, hey, how you doing, sir? Nice meeting you." And it was Greg Fernelli, and we were actually at the Indianapolis 500. He says, "You know Jeff, don't you?" And I was like, you know how you always say you never want to say no, I don't know you. It's like, yes, sir, how you doing? And but I don't know him, and he's a promoter. He's the first one. His company is the first one to buy the big money franchises, and pay the charter fees. You know, he bought that Furniture Row charter
Yes.
when Martin Truex. They paid $7 or $8 million for it. And everybody thought, oh my God, that's outrageous. Well, and then they recently paid $40 million for one. So he's smart enough. I think he's smart enough to know how to drive the cost of business up to benefit theirself on the backside.
Yeah.
Because
So
ever
he's
since those guys have got involved, they got all this capital venture money in a bunch of different race teams now, not just, one or two teams. You've got Childress Racing's got capital venture money. You got Legacy Motorsports with capital venture money. You've got Spire with crazy money backing it. The Hendrick Group is kind of different because they got the automotive group. Penske's got his businesses funding it, but these guys wouldn't be getting these people to come on board if there wasn't a real perceived value in it. It may not be an immediate value, but there's a value because these corporations that are helping fund these things have made plenty of money, and it certainly wasn't from giving it away.
right. I got to ask you a question. You and I've never talked about this. You race against Dale Earnhardt more than just about as much as anybody ever has. But tell me what it was like. Was he that good? Was he that good, Mike?
Well, I think you have to say he was that good. I think there was a time and era that as he came along, he was also the start of what Richard Childress was kind of the start of what most people considered the super team. I don't want that to be misled for crazy amount of money, this, that, but it was an organization that got put together, got this guy, this young kid who's Dale Earnhardt, man in black because they got the good wrench colors on and got good, it had Wrangler on it for a while. And they built an image, right? He built an image and he had to live up to that image. Everybody thinks a lot of this stuff is just, oh, this is it. This is how it happens. Well, no, a lot of these are very calculated decisions. All the way down to the number three. Did you know the number three on Richard Childress's car is trademark, a registered trademark number?
Yes, I do.
Yeah, a lot of people don't know that. You'll look even on the decal, you see the little circle with the R on it. And it can only be used in a certain way. But Dale Earnhardt was very good. He was he was a wheelman. What's a wheelman mean? Means he took a not perfect race car and could get everything there was out of the car and maybe a little bit more.
Yeah.
And if he got it slipping, sliding, yep, but he could handle it. And we see those drivers come along every so often. Every so often, what is every so often? There's one every couple years. Right now we're watching the phenomenon, and even though he's not a young guy, is Shane Van Ginsberg. The from New Zealand. I think it's from New Zealand, right?
Yes.
He waxes everybody's ass on the road courses. I mean, he makes them look horrible. I didn't realize until watching him at Sonoma, they had his in-car camera showing all the things he's doing as a driver. Right? I'm thinking he's just braking and shifting. Hell no, he's adjusting the brake bias every lap, every corner, doing different things. He's making that car work because he come from a background that you had to do that.
Yeah.
We watched for a couple years. We were saying, well, Kyle Larson is the most badass in the country. Well, he's still really fast, but he hasn't won many races in the last couple years.
True.
He's won a lot of sprint car races, and he's out there, and everybody talks highly of him because he can go out and run a sprint car tonight, and a midget tomorrow night, a late model, and show up at Sunday and run a NASCAR car. But Tony Stewart could do that. Kenny Schrader could do that.
Mike Wallace can do it.
Yeah,
You can
well,
say
but those guys did it. They did it. They cycled through that. The AJ Foyt, Mario Andretti stories. Let's date ourselves back and get into the guys that started that time and era with that multi type racing. But yeah, Dale Earnhardt was good, and I do have a hard time going with the comment of him being great.
Mhm.
I think he's really good. Is he that as in other sports they call him the GOAT, greatest of all time. Was he the greatest of all time? I don't know. I really don't. Was he really, really good? Yes, he was. But I look at people that
You
They can
put the
lay the numbers on the board, but did it in a quiet way. Jimmy Johnson is
Jimmy
probably our
Johnson,
most
that's who I was just thinking of.
unassuming champions of the world. I mean, 7 cup championships. I really wish I could have seen him race cup cars for a couple more years in his Super A game program because, there's 3 people that are tied with 7 championships. So there's never going to be another one, I don't think. I mean, it's going to be very
Right,
hard. So you got Richard Petty, who started it. He's the king. He's still the king. He's still at the racetrack every Sunday, and you had Dale Earnhardt, who won 7 of those championships. Then you had Jimmy Johnson just roll them babies off like they were nothing. And then
incredible.
the programs changed, and he decided to go IndyCar racing and found out that was a little bit more difficult than what he expected it to be. And then went back and he become a full-time business owner to own that Legacy Motorsports. And you see this year they finally have stepped the program up, but behind the scenes, there's been a lot of integral moving of high quality people on that team, along with a bunch of outside cash capital to help that team.
Right. Yeah. To move ahead here, how do you take a guy like Daniel Suarez, pretty much gets demoted with Ross Chastain's team, kind of like the last driver, and they bring in Shane for to replace Daniel in a roundabout way. And now Daniel Suarez is standing 11th in points. Unfortunately, Ross, I think, is maybe in the top 20, but how does that happen? You take a guy to another team, less money, less equipment. Does it just create a hunger attitude? Is that what happened with Daniel, you think?
Well, again, let's remember who Daniel's driving for. He's driving for Spire Motorsports.
Yeah, I know.
Okay, so I kind of want to throw out, if we can, throw that money deal out the window. That they might want to argue that, but they are as close as you can get to a direct affiliate Hendrick Motorsports car, you know? And they're a company, they build race cars for people. They sell cars. When Spire bought out KBM, Kyle Busch Motorsports, they bought the race. Everybody thinks they bought just a building. They bought the business entity of building race cars. So they build most of the trucks and most of the cars that are out there today, especially in the truck series and the O'Reilly series, are built out of their shops. So they got really knowledgeable people. They stepped up. How did they step up? There's only one way in racing you step up. You hire really good people. How do you hire really good people? We all know what that is. You pay them really good money. There's an $8 million lawsuit going on right now with Joe Gibbs Racing against Spire Motorsports, saying they stole their competition director and he took secrets from JGR over to Spire. He says he didn't. They say he did. Hell, the way the performance looks, maybe he did. But Daniel Suarez got thrown in the mix. At the same time, Daniel Suarez, you got to remember he won a championship for Joe Gibbs Racing in a Busch Series car, or at that time, or a Nationwide Series car. He's won a few races. He's a race car driver, and he's got a bit of a chip on his shoulder because he's not keeping those consistent rides, but he's got that cool, I call it Spanish heritage to him, or Mexican heritage, however you want to say it. Him and his amigos, as he says, they got a lot to prove. They got a lot to prove, and he's got a lot. He's got a lot of pretty strong financial backing, from Mexico into his program. Got
Hmm.
to remember, most everybody again has got financial funding that's backing them, helping support their deal, and at the same time, NASCAR itself wants the sport to be very international. So
Yes.
I'm not going to say they do anything special, but that they get what they need to get those cars to run good. And Daniel Suarez is a nice kid. I like him. He's.
Hmm. I was really looking forward to the fact that you were going to race the Daytona 500, as I'm sure you were too. Broke my heart when things kind of did a 360 and went the wrong way for you. But, I'm sure you've had some experience in driving that Cup car. What's it like, Mike, compared to the old school cars that you came up in NASCAR?
Well, I'd like to answer that for you, Gary, but I can't. And that was NASCAR's statement to me. Well, I hadn't drove one of the new cars yet. Well, I've talked to numerous race car drivers. Okay, they're race cars. They handle a little different, they drive a little different, but that's the characteristics of every brand and style of car you drive. No car across the board is exactly the same, you know? They claim, the world claims, SVG, Shane Van G that the new Cup cars are closer to the Australian supercars. That's why he was able to come over and kind of adapt pretty quickly, at least from the road race side, because the cars handle the same way and so forth. But Gary, we got to look at everything. The table's pretty even now. This car has been around long enough. Everybody's dealt the same car, same chassis, same component number, same brake, same transmission, literally a spec car, and they're dealing with fractions of an inch, thousands of an inch to make their cars better or worse. And some guys have got it figured out. I mean, we watched North Wilkesboro. How the hell did Joey Logano dominate that race on a half-mile racetrack, lead 400 and something laps of a 500-lap race? It's incredible. It was incredible. Big Mark Nichols, who's the engine tuner on that team, and I are buddies from when we raced at Morgan McClure together. We converse through text messages all the time, and I sent him a message on Sunday night, and I go, "That was a win that was definitely all in the engine tune-up."
Yeah.
And he laughed,
You made
the
his
end
day.
result, it takes everything to make those cars drive good, get on pit road, get off pit road,
Yeah.
and,
Perfect
so
race for him. It really was.
yeah.
Yeah. What we know, and the audience probably knows this too, that cars have always been passed down from Cup to, we can call it the Busch Series, as we well know it from years ago. Although it's O'Reilly now, it was Nationwide. But the car of tomorrow was pushed down to Xfinity or Nationwide or Busch, whatever you want to call it. This car, this animal, this Cup car, they're having a hard time thinking about pushing this car down to the O'Reilly Series by the simple fact it's too expensive for the owners to absorb. Give us some insight, Mike, to what that would be like.
I don't think it will ever happen. There's a lot of confusion going on right now. And let me clarify something. Let's put it in simple facts that people understand. The purse on Sunday, okay, the total purse on Sunday is right at $12 million. Okay, I get this flyer every week in the mail that or on my email that tells me the different what the total purse is for the Cup Series, for the O'Reilly Series, and for the Truck Series. Okay, so we've got about $12 million in purse money for the Cup cars. We've got listen to this difference, $1.7 million total purse for the O'Reilly Series cars,
Big swing.
and $800,000 total purse for the Truck Series. Total. That's all the money they got to divide up. So you get the Truck Series, you got 800,000 to divide up. And a lot of that is year-end points money and all that's figured in every race. You remember getting the Owners' Blanks had all those different formats. But the Cup Series got $12 million every weekend. All right. And I do know that NASCAR is concerned about the Cup Series. That's their primary concern. As they've told me, flat out of the mouth of the leaders of the organization, there would be no O'Reilly Auto Parts Series if there was no Cup Series.
True.
So we have to make the Cup Series be what it's going to be. They're totally confused right now on this step down there. They were trying to take, I hear behind the scenes, they were trying to take the O'Reilly Series and turn it into an electric car series, the battery car series, with a UV style body on it. And they've done a lot of testing with that car. It's really fast, but it's very expensive. Can't get the longevity out of it. Needs to run a race and things like that. I'm sure they got that capability and will get it eventually, but there's too big a gap. You can't throw that real expensive car down any farther because you spec that car. You made it only certain parts could fit it. You can't roll off your brakes off your old car and put them on the new car. Anything. None of the parts are compatible. So it will be interesting to see how this series advances along over the next few years. It'd be interesting to see what O'Reilly Auto Parts does with the series. I mean, I heard on the news station this morning or the financial channel that O'Reilly Auto Parts lodged a $10 billion takeover bid to Napa Auto Parts. I would have never thought this little parts store that grew up in Springfield, Missouri. I'm from St. Louis. We used to go by their headquarters, which was a little building. They are working on becoming the largest auto parts chain in the country.
Everybody always thought it was AutoZone, but you're right. I mean, the O'Reillys, they're just stepping up.
Yeah. So if they step up, maybe everybody can step up. Sponsorship will step up. We have to take this racing way back and back in time. What's that mean? We need to go right back to the Winston Cup Series to realize that's where the growth of the sport took place. Anybody that doesn't realize that had it not been for the RJR brand or the Winston brand, because that's the title they put on it, we wouldn't have what we have today because they've yet to find anybody else that would step up and spend that type of money to promote the sport. And what they did by promoting the sport, Gary, every race town, I mean, you've seen it back in the earlier days. Every race town you would go into, you would know for a week ahead of time, there's a race in town. Every convenience store, every grocery store, everybody had show cars. There were show car appearances everywhere. Drivers making appearances, billboards flooded to the max, banners hanging on the side of the highway. Now, I don't know how the hell people know there's a race in town. I guess social media does that
I guess so. Yeah.
because it certainly isn't showing like other than traffic on race weekend. We live right here in the middle of it. Even the local news stations don't cover motorsports like they used to.
Yeah. Boy, and you guys were right in the thick of things back in the day, for sure.
Yeah, we all kid each other. We were able to ride the wave up, ride the plateau, and ride the start of the decline, but bailed when the decline started.
Yeah. Yeah. Maybe we were lucky, Mike. Maybe
Yeah,
we're lucky.
Gary, as much as we sometimes get frustrated with the way things are, or maybe the way we did certain things, we were in it at a premier time. I mean, really great time in the sport, and a lot of great things happened. A lot of historical events took place, and I'm just working today. I think I told you about this before. I told you a couple shows ago. I was working today on getting my 2020, excuse me, my 2000 Ford F-150 Ultra Motorsports truck, number 2 that I won the inaugural truck race at Daytona with back. I've got that truck, it's mine now, but it's sitting out in California and I'm having it shipped over here. And we were trying to get it done by one of the transporters during the race at San Diego and didn't get done. But I'm trying to get that over here because I got a perfect place. I'm going to put that, and I'm going to be so happy because you know why? I'm the only one that can ever say they won the inaugural truck race at Daytona.
Unbelievable.
Excuse me. There's no other driver in the history of motorsports that can say that.
I hope you
And
bring it back. I think that have that truck out on the track, as
yeah,
just
we might get, I might be able to create enough interest with Greg Walters over here at Charlotte Motor Speedway for the truck race to go, hey, let's throw a little history, make a parade lap before the truck race with it, and
well,
heck, my brother Rusty, is even coming out of retirement. Him and Mark Martin, they're going to, Washington, D.C. and going to run the IROC cars. I think it's August 24th, the weekend, the Freedom 250, which our great president is allowing, the U.S. to celebrate in a multitude of different ways. And
for sure.
I heard my brother really excited about it. And 6 months ago, he told you were fing crazy if you thought he was going to drive a race car again.
Yeah. Here we go again. The
Yeah.
Wallace boys. Mike,
Yeah.
we're running out of time here. Let's do another podcast real quick. There's so much politically that I want to talk about. I like to shoot it over against you and listen to your viewpoints, but this stuff going on in Iran, we got to touch base on it. But unfortunately, we're at 35 minutes. We got to close out. But gosh darn, it's good to see you again. I hope you're starting to feel better.
Oh, I'm going to feel fine. We'll get back together here right away and I'll let you do the talking. You know all about that politics stuff.
I like it
They,
when you
they,
take.
they taught me over in this world. I got to, I can't say everything exactly the way I want to say it, but I'm getting to the point that I don't have to be loyal to anybody. So I can't get canceled. So I'm not concerned about it.
I love it when you take all the air out of the room. It makes for a good show, my man. Thanks,
Yes,
Mike.
sir. Sorry for the cough, everybody. Just a little under the weather, but I'm going to be back at it before long and going to be good. We'll see you in the next show. So thanks for joining Gary
Thanks, everyone.
Keller and Mike Wallace talking racing and stuff. And we'll be back to see you in a short time.
Thank you.